main story to emerge from the weekend here, aside from the Hall of Fame stuff, was Alex Rodriguez in a hastily arranged press conference. Press release was sent out Saturday night, and one of the gentlemen who covers the Yankees every single day and does a nice job for him. His name is Mark Feinsand, Daily News beat man for the Yanks. He's with us here on Tiki and Tierney. Feinsand, how you been, man? It's been a while. What's happening, Mark?
BT, what's going on, my man?
I'm good. How you been? Everything okay?
Everything's good.
Good, man. Good. All right, so when you got when you were alerted that the Yankees were having this 11 a.m. presser and you learned that A-Rod would be there, you probably got the same sense that I got, that at least publicly there wouldn't be an outward sign of acrimony. Beneath the surface, you probably have to have a different theory. How did this play out? Why now? What the hell's going on?
I think this was a way to just sort of let everybody save face and have the inevitable happen. Alex wasn't playing. He wasn't going to play anytime soon. Joe Girardi had made that pretty clear, especially this week. He didn't play him against Steven Matz or Bartolo Colon, which either one of those would have been, if you're going to play him at all, those were the matchups to play him in. And I think this is a way that the Yankees could release him while letting him save a little face and not, just look like, all right, we're cutting you, just, sending you to the sidewalk. And I think Alex understood that, there aren't a whole lot of opportunities out there for him to continue playing, even if he wants to. So I'm not saying it's impossible that he plays again, but I think most likely Friday we'll see his final at bats.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of getting to the same point, although I think probably a little more than Tiki and maybe even more than you. I think that he is going to play at some point. I think it'll be very hard to, or at least try, to sit at 696 and stare at that for the rest of his life. You mentioned Girardi and how Joe was very obvious in not playing him and made his commitment shown. Do you think that was an organizational mandate, or do you believe that was really Joe Girardi based on what's best for the Yankees not playing Alex?
I don't know that it wasn't an organizational mandate, but I don't think Joe Girardi had any problem following it. I think he would have been perfectly happy. He took the bullet. He said he was not being told not to play him. I don't think Joe wanted to play him. I think Joe looked at it and said, because he had opportunities to use him as a pinch hitter or, like I said, use him in the occasional matchup. And Joe would just keep saying, well, I'm looking for the right matchups, yet those matchups never seem to appear. So whether it was coming down from Cashman or Hal or not, I don't think Joe had any issue with it, and I think they were all on the same page.
We're talking to Mark Feinsand, covers the Yankees beat man Daily News, and Mark is with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
Now, Mark, you wrote a great piece this morning in the Daily News about your history of covering Alex Rodriguez, and it's been storied from his divorce to obviously the steroid stuff, coming back, winning champion, all those things. What's been the most compelling story about A-Rod over his tenure here in New York?
I think 2009 in general was probably the most compelling period to cover him, from the first steroid admission, the Sports Illustrated story, into his admission, into hip surgery, into him coming back and having a really good year, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and the last day of the season, 2 homers and 7 ribbies to get to those numbers, and then of course helping the Yankees win the World Series. It was it was like a full year of 180, and going from shamed steroid user to injured, aging player to postseason hero. That was probably the most compelling year to cover him. But obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, the story that I wrote today, 13 seasons of covering him has brought a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And, I referred to him as the Howard Stern of baseball. You may love him, you may hate him, but everybody pays attention to him. And he's certainly been the most interesting player I've ever covered.
Oh, well, how about the Tiki and Tierney of baseball? Come on, Feinsand, don't sell us short here, man.
Exactly. Mark, it's interesting that we look at last year, right? Because last year at the beginning of the season, it was, man, A-Rod, either he got advanced PR help or he's actually changing. And then it led to a pretty phenomenal season for a guy who was turning 40, 33 home runs, and is fantastic of a season as you could expect it from him. What happened in between?
I think it was both. I think the year suspension humbled him to some extent. I think a guy who had everything had come pretty easily to him his whole life. And had everybody telling him how great he was his whole life, all of a sudden had the one thing he loved taken away from him for a full year. Forget the $20 million he lost, but just the idea of, taking an athlete's career is there's a certain finite period of time that you can play.
Yep.
And when you're approaching the end of it anyway, and you miss an entire year of that, at age 38, that's got to hit you to some extent. Like you said, though, he did get some PR help, and his PR guy Rob Berkowitz, I think, did a really good job of helping him through a lot of the tough times. And if you remember back to when the suspension was going on and all that, he was just a disaster PR-wise, and saying all the wrong things all the time. And I think his new PR guy, who he finally settled in with, I think played a big role in helping him sort of figure out how to handle the public side of it.
You know what might be most interesting to me here, because unless this emerged while I've been on the air and I just didn't catch it, I don't know this detail, but if you do, by all means, enlighten us here. Mark Feinsand, Daily News, covers the Yanks, and Mark is with us here on Tiki and Tierney. Now, to your knowledge, does he have an ironclad coaching contract? Because to me, that's where we get answers. Like, what I think, Mark, is that he's basically getting 24. Well, he's going to get every penny. We know that. The $21 million next year and the $3 million that remains this year. And they kind of position it as, he's going to help. And he might even help and instruct and be a coach, whatever, on some level. But he's not getting extra money. Like, he's not going to have a contract where he's making $150,000 to coach that would preclude him from playing, does he?
I don't know the financial details of it. I'm sure, they said he's going to sign a coaching contract. Can't imagine that's for free. So there's probably something there. But I would imagine that there is an out in there that says if another major league team wants him to be an active player, that he can go do that. Brian Cashman said he's free to go, play with another team. So I think that's a possibility. But again, I think unless he gets that opportunity in the offseason to go to spring training with a team that he thinks he has a real chance to play, get some at bats, et cetera, I think there's a better chance that we see this Friday be his final at bat.
I know you've got to run. You have a TV hit coming up. We've got to get an update, but quickly, I gave my opinion on what kind of reception I think he gets in Fenway if he plays, and he better at least one game, but I think he will. How do you think the Fenway fans treat him?
I think they boo the hell out of him.
I disagree.
I think at Fenway that he's a guy who, they never liked Jeter, but they respected him. And I think when he was going out, there was no question they were going to show that love and that respect. Mm-hmm. I don't think that respect exists for Alex. I think their lasting images of Alex are, the fight with Jason Varitek, slapping Bronson Arroyo's gloves. I don't think they have that same respect for him, and I think they will boo him. I think Yankee Stadium will be a love fest on Friday night. But
sure.
Fenway will boo him.
Mark, good stuff, man. It's been a while. Nice to catch up. Keep doing your thing. I'm reading you, man. Thank you.
You got it, fellas. Take
Be
care.
good, Mark.